Today, I will give you 5 sharp signs that your coworkers are not your friends, drawn from experiences and stories that have happened to me and I've seen happening to others as well. For each sign, I want to share how you can shift your mindset to take action to protect yourself. I used to think that being liked at work was a strength. I believed that if I was loyal, supportive, and open with my colleagues, they would do the same for me. Then one day, I saw that the very people I thought were my people were making decisions that protected themselves and not me. That's when it hit me. Coworkers are not your friends, guys. Now, this doesn't mean you have to be cold or distrustful to everyone at work. It means being able to recognize what a co-worker relationship really is. We spend more time with co-workers than many friends or family, so it's natural to feel close. You laugh with them, you share inside jokes, maybe even grab lunch or drinks. But here's the reality. At work, everyone is ultimately looking out for their own job and reputation. Your colleagues can be kind and collaborative, but when push comes to shove, their career and their personal best interest comes first. Remember that. This is basic human nature in a competitive environment. I do have to note here that things can be different from one country to another and from one culture to another. But overall, colleagues will protect themselves when it comes down to it. And this becomes even more important after 40. When you're younger, a mistaken judgment about workplace dynamics might cost you a lesson. After 40, it can cost you your positioning, your reputation, or the next senior opportunity. At this stage of your career, your professional capital compounds. One careless conversation, one wrong alliance, one emotional reaction can undo years of credibility. That's why the topic isn't just about friendship, it's about being able to protect your long term career equity. Think about it. Companies have limited spots for promotions, raises, or recognition. If you succeed, that means that maybe someone else didn't. Even well meaning coworkers can feel conflicted when you're both up for the same opportunity. Workplace friendships get kind of interesting when competing for a promotion. If your work friend gets ahead of you, or vice versa, it can strain the relationship with jealousy or even resentment. And if you're too friendly with a colleague, others might whisper about favoritism. There's also the issue of trust and gossip. In a real friendship, if you confide something personal or vent about someone, your friend keeps it private. In the workplace, though, it's a little bit different. That confidence can easily turn into tomorrow's rumor. As a career expert Jack Kelly points out, developing deep friendships at work can expose personal secrets that could be used against you if things sour. Unfortunately, I learned this firsthand. What feels like harmless venting to a coworker can quickly become a weaponized story, making its way to your boss's ears. Why does this all matter? Because a betrayal by a coworker friend can hurt as much as any other betrayal. But there's an extra sting there. You often can't escape the person's presence after a fallout because you still have to work with them or see them in the office halls every single day. That means managing that tension for the sake of your job, which is an added stress that no one needs, believe me. In short, mistaking coworkers for true friends can leave you emotionally hurt and professionally vulnerable. It's a hard lesson many of us learn too late. Here are the 5 signs that demonstrate your coworkers are not your friends. Sign number 1: broken confidences and office gossip. I learned this in the most gut wrenching way, if I may say so. I had a colleague, let's call him John, who I thought was a genuine friend. We'd grab beers on Fridays, happy hours, swap stories about our personal lives, and commiserate about work. One evening, and while I was a bit frustrated, I told John about how our manager was dropping the ball on a project. He nodded along sympathetically at the time. I thought venting to my friend was safe, but by Monday, I walked into work and sensed the stares. Sure enough, word had spread. Everything I told John in confidence that Friday had been fed straight to other colleagues and somehow has reached even up the chain. What began as a friendly private chat ended as an HR issue and office gossip. I honestly felt humiliated and betrayed. The sign that I didn't get to notice is that if a coworker gossips to you or worse shares your personal comments with others, they are not a real friend. True friends protect your secrets. Fake friends spread them around. Pay attention to how a coworker handles information. Do they often gossip about other people's business with you? That's a red flag because anyone who gossips with you will gossip about you. In my case, I ignored that John was frequently dished dirt about our teammates. I assumed I was special and he will never do this to me. I was wrong. A real friend doesn't weaponize your trust, but a coworker looking out for themselves won't hesitate if it benefits them or earns them some credit points. Here is the mindset shift that needs to happen. The lesson is don't overshare at work, no matter how buddy it feels. Keep sensitive opinions about your boss or workplace to yourself, or share them only with truly trusted people outside of work if possible. Never delude yourself into thinking coworkers are your friends. Betrayal is real. Be careful what you send in an email or text because you never know who it will get forwarded to. Learned that the hard way myself. This might sound cynical, but it's about being smart. So, the action item here is stop treating coworkers like your personal diary. If you wouldn't shout it in a meeting, don't say it to a work pal one to one. Preserve your professional reputation by keeping the private matters private. Sign number two, no backup when it counts. So this is another sign that you're not dealing with a real friend at work. Is when that friend, uh, when push comes to shove, they don't have your back. I once collaborated closely with a coworker. Let's call her Lisa, on a major project. We got along just great. We were joking around. We were even calling each other, work pals. I truly believed we had each other's backs. Well, one day, a critical deadline was missed due to I guess, mutual misunderstanding. Our manager was furious and called us both in. I figured we'd share the blame since we were a team. But funny enough, Lisa immediately distanced herself. She said I must have misunderstood the assignment and that she did everything right. I sat there in shock. Honestly, as my friend, let me take all the heat. She was protecting herself, even if it meant throwing me under the bus. In that painful meeting, I realized a coworker will often prioritize their own job over your feelings. A true friend wouldn't hang you out to dry like that. So, the sign I didn't pick up early, if your coworker buddy ghosts you in times of need or refuses to stick their neck out for you, that's a clear indicator you're dealing with just a coworker, not a friend. Maybe you've experienced this. You ask a friend at work to back you up on something minor in a meeting, but somehow they manage to stay silent. Or worse, when you're under scrutiny, they suddenly act neutral or side with the authority. Um, you have to remember that office friendships often feel real until authority enters the room. When things get tough, a mistake, a conflict, a layoff rumor, friends support each other, but co-workers often flip into self-preservation mode. It might feel like betrayal, but really, it's just business reminding you that at work, everyone's first loyalty is to their own paycheck. I mean, that's the truth. So, what's the mindset shift here? Protect yourself professionally. Expect that at some point, any coworker will choose to their job over your friendship. This means don't put yourself in a position where you rely solely on a colleague's loyalty. Document your work clearly, clarify responsibilities via email, and avoid situations where your success hinges on someone else's personal allegiance. If you do team up with a close colleague, have frank discussions about roles so no one gets blamed unfairly and mentally prepare. If a coworker friend doesn't defend you publicly, try not to take it to heart. This is business. Remember that workplace competition often underlies these behaviors, and it's usually more to do with that and less with you. In short, trust actions over friendly words. Enjoy camaraderie, but when crunch time hits, be ready to stand on your own 2 feet. That way, you won't be blindsided if your work friend prioritizes themselves. So have your own back at all times. And here is the strong power shift you should try today. When you stop expecting loyalty and start operating with clarity, you become emotionally stable in the workplace. You don't overreact. You don't feel blindsided. You don't collapse when someone doesn't defend you. That emotional control signals maturity, and maturity signals leadership. The people who rise are rarely the most liked. They are the most steady under pressure. Sign number three, competition always creeps in. Let me share another scenario from a few years back. I had a coworker, let's name them Alex, who started around the same time I did. We were work buddies from day one. We took lunch together, collaborated well, and even celebrated each other's small wins. I genuinely consider Alex to be my friend. Then, after a couple of years, a higher position opened up on our team, a promotion that honestly both of us wanted. We both applied, and I ended up getting the job. I naively expected Alex to be happy for me. After all, I would have been happy for him. Instead, everything changed. Alex's congratulations were kind of lukewarm at best. In meetings, he started challenging my ideas in a harsher tone. He stopped joking with me. He stopped going out to lunch. I later on heard through the grapevine that he had been telling others I didn't really deserve the promotion. It was honestly heartbreaking. Our easy friendship evaporated the minute we were no longer on equal footing. So the sign, if here is the following: if a coworker's attitude towards you shifts when either of you has a change in status, a promotion, an award, even praise from the boss, that's a sign the friendship was conditional. Real friends celebrate your achievements. Fake work friends might feel envy or contempt. It might also work in reverse. A coworker who's a buddy when they need your help or support, but as soon as they advance, they distance themselves. Workplace relationships are often situational. They thrive when you are in the same boat. But once the balance tilts, the dynamic can get sour quite fast. Competition is built into the workplace structure, and even a pal at work can become a rival when ambition clash. If you notice your colleague can't be genuinely happy for your success or expect you to downplay it, that's not a true friend. So, the mindset shift here is recognize the difference between personal and professional loyalty. A practical step here is to keep your career goals and achievements in perspective every time you're dealing with coworkers. It's okay to have a friendly rivalry, but set boundaries. For example, if you get a promotion, be gracious and modest at work. And understand if some coworkers, even the friendly ones, act awkward. Don't immediately assume they hate you, but do note their behavior. On the other side, if your work buddy gets promoted above you, check in with yourself. Are you feeling resentment? That's a sign to try to recalibrate this relationship professionally. So the action item is continue to be professional and collaborative with coworkers, regardless of role changes, but save the expectation of unconditional support for friends outside the chain of command. At work, always expect mixed reactions to your wins. It will remind you not to rely on coworker approval for validation. Instead, focus on earning respect. Over time, the colleagues who can still treat you with respect and warmth, even when circumstances change, are the ones who might cross into real friend territory. Those are rare, of course, and they're very precious when they happen. Until then, keep a gentle guard up. Remember, You and your coworkers are competitors chasing the same prize, and competitors cannot be true friends. In most cases, of course. This mindset also gives you a political awareness. You start seeing workplace dynamics as they are, not as you wish they were. You stop confusing friendliness with loyalty. That clarity protects your judgment. And good judgment is one of the strongest currencies in senior roles. Sign number four, they're only there for the 9 to 5. One big sign is this one, and it often becomes clear in hindsight, and that's when your co-worker friendships don't translate outside of work. I'll share a personal example. At one of my previous jobs, I had what felt like an amazing support system. We called ourselves the lunch crew. We ate together every day, cracked jokes about our boss, even exchanged holiday cards, and we did the Pollyanna. I figured these relationships were real. When I left that company after 5 years, there were heartfelt goodbyes and promises like, we'll totally keep in touch. Fast forward a few months, my phone remained quiet. The group chat that used to buzz daily had gone silent. I reached out to a couple of my closest former coworkers. One never responded, the other gave a polite, let's catch up sometime. But no one ever followed up. Even when I was laid off, I made an effort to reach out to former colleagues, asking for some help on introductions, suggestions, and anything that will help me launch my next role. To my surprise, some of them did not respond at all. A couple who did gave me the cliche answer, oh, I will keep an eye and ear out for you, but I never heard back. It really hit me hard realizing that aside from the context of working in the same office, we had so little holding us together. Our friendship, and I put this in quotes, lived and died in those office halls. The sign I should have noticed is that if the relationship with your coworker barely exists beyond work duties or work hours, that's a sign it's not a genuine friendship. It's a friendly coexistence. Do you hang out only when it's a company function or the occasional after work drink with the whole team? Do you know much about their life outside the office? And do they know about yours? A true friend usually crosses over into personal territory when it's the right timing. Meeting up on weekends maybe, understanding each other's family situations, staying in touch during life events. If that's all minimal or missing, you're most likely dealing with a situational acquaintance. And it's not just if you leave the job. Think about tough times. Did anyone from work reach out when you were sick or maybe grieving, aside from signing a company card? Often, work friends vanish when you're no longer in proximity. So, the mindset shift here is set the right expectations. It's okay to enjoy the camaraderie of work relationships. Having colleagues you get along with makes the day go faster and the teamwork much easier. But remind yourself that many of these relationships have an expiration date, and that's tied to your employment. And that's normal. It doesn't mean everyone is fake, of course. It means life gets busy and the common ground was the job. So, what's the actionable step you can take today? Cultivate friendships outside of work, or try to, so your entire social life isn't dependent on the office. That way, if you switch jobs or retire, you're not left isolated wondering where all your friends went. Also, test the water gently if you feel a coworker could be a real friend. Meet for coffee on a weekend or include them in a non work activity. See if the connection holds without the work context. Just do so cautiously, though, and don't overshare personal vulnerabilities too soon. Over time, you'll identify if any colleague truly cares about you as a person or if it's just convenience. Value those rare, real connections, but don't assume every friendly coworker will be there for you when you are no longer on the company. Sign number five is when the friendship is a one sided benefit. So watch out for that sign of a one sided or opportunistic relationships. I had a coworker, for the purposes of this video, I'll call them Mark, who was extremely friendly from day one. Mark always was very flattering to me. I could never do this without you. Or, you are the best, man. We make such a great team. It felt nice. I got to be honest. It felt really nice. And we got along really well. But over time, I noticed a pattern. His friendliness spiked whenever he needed something. If he was swamped, he'd butter me up to help finish his tasks. I helped him